All right. Welcome back, everybody, to Altcoin Daily. Thank you for joining us on a Sunday. We are here with special guest Hashoshi, not Hashoshi, but Hashoshi. The link to his YouTube channel in the description. I wanted to bring on a guest today because we're going to be talking about altcoins. This isn't necessarily going to be deep dives. It's just, I don't know if you've seen any of our videos recently, Hashoshi, actually for the past couple of years. We've gone a little bit stronger on like the Bitcoin fundamentalism perspective.
Yep.
Just because in my opinion, that's the only one worth evangelizing. But people are always like, hey, Bitcoin Daily, talk more about altcoins. So we wanted to bring on somebody who's, you seem to be very knowledgeable and you come from a coding background. So I want you to introduce yourself. But before we get to that, everybody hit the like button. Let's get this video to what? 200 likes. You know how it goes, Satoshi. And please, Hashoshi, if you could give us an introduction and introduce yourself. I first saw you on with Elliot from FUD TV. And what I like about you is you come at this from a reasonable perspective from the tech side, and you take the time to really explain your opinion. And I like that. So please.
Awesome. Much appreciated. Well, first of all, thanks for having me, and everyone, thanks for watching.
Before we get to that, everybody hit the like button. I apologize.
We good?
Yeah, we're good.
Cool.
Apologize for that.
Always audio can never be perfect, man. It always happens.
Yeah. Okay.
Awesome. My name is Forrest. I run the YouTube channel Hashoshi, and the main focus of that channel is breaking down the tech and making crypto accessible to basically everyone. So being able to explain some of the concepts that go on behind the scenes that really drive the value props for a lot of these different projects. My background, I've been interested and involved in the crypto space for a long time, probably close to 9 years now, just tangentially, just of interest. And I've really started working in the space about 4.5, 5 years ago. And I've been a dApp developer. I'm a programmer by trade. That's my full-time gig. And then on the side, I love to just make videos and talk about tech, emerging technologies in general, but very specifically crypto and blockchain.
Cool. And when you first got in, I think everybody gets in with Bitcoin first, or coming from the tech perspective, was there something, were you interested in Ethereum at that time, or?
So early on, I was actually, I was still in school at the time, and I was on StumbleUpon, a website you should click through and find random stuff.
We used to do that all the time.
Yeah, it was like the best way to pass the time. And I came across the Bitcoin white paper through StumbleUpon. And at that time, I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life at all, because I had so many interests. I liked economics, I liked psychology, I liked tech, and the Bitcoin white paper really mixed a lot of those things together. And so I printed it out. I have the annotated copy from somewhere. I've moved several times, but it's somewhere in boxes. And I just stuck with it ever since then. And so it's been a really cool journey, at least, to watch how much different and how much change there's been in this space.
I love it.
And when it comes to altcoins, are you a hodler or more of a
trader?
Yeah, trader. Or
I am like an awful trader. Like, I know next to nothing about trading, and that's why I always enjoy talking to people who are into that, because I don't know much about it. I'm a hodler type of guy. And most of the time when I buy into a project, it's because I'm trying to test it out. So it's I bought some UBT so I could test out Unibright's platform, so I can actually use it for what's intended. So investment usually comes secondary for me, because I just love to tinker and play around with stuff. And if I love it, then I might, put some in a long-term hold, but I don't trade daily or anything.
Right.
We're hodlers too.
We're hodlers as well. And just a reminder to everybody in the chat, we're going to be it's going to be a conversation, but whatever altcoins you want us to address, you put them in the chat. We'll all give our positive and negative opinion on them. Won't spend too much time on it, but really just a general overview. And I'm psyched to hear what Hashoshi has to, think about it too, since he's, his link to his YouTube channel in the description.
Thank you.
And we are getting already some comments like ADA, Theta, Ontology, but we're going to just we'll get to them. We'll get to them.
Everybody, let's get the likes over 200. Before we start, I did want to preface, I'm going to share my screen real quick. I wanted to preface with this thread right here by Willy Woo. We've shared this before. I wanted to get Forrest's take on this as well. Let me just go over some of it, then we'll get Forrest's take. So this on altcoins. There are nuances. We have all protocol coins, utility coins, security tokens, non-fungible tokens. There are, privacy coins. There's, all different types. According to Willy Woo, to an investor, there are only two types of altcoins: oscillators and degenerators. And this is the overall chart of that. And basically what that means is the vast majority of altcoins, whether some are scams, some are just bad ideas, or people give up, and those altcoins are degens. Their price charts have a measurable half-life, like radioactive decay plotted on a log chart. It's a straight line down. This one is Namecoin, a promising coin of its era, and there are over 2,000 examples like this. Now, a handful of coins are oscillators. Oscillators are proving store of value properties. To qualify, they need to keep up with Bitcoin USD gains. To find them, plot their Bitcoin value. And basically you can see that, as Bitcoin has store value properties, these coins oscillate with them. And this chart right here is Litecoin, Stellar, and Dogecoin. And you can see that's Doge right here.
And what merit, if any, from your perspective, Forrest, do you put into that?
I mean, I kind of agree with it, because I've been saying for a while that a lot of times altcoins, people invest in them like they would invest in a security or a stock, right? It's, I believe in this company and what they're building, so I'm going to buy their token and hold on to it because it's going to get used later. And that's, I guess, an okay idea, but the reality is that a lot of these tokens are not, they're not securities because they're not linked to the success or failure of the project's core idea. But also a lot of tokens are not economically designed or structured to accrue in value in any meaningful way. So I think a lot of times too is, even if it's a utility token, it might not even be beneficial to the use case for the token value on a per token basis to be extremely high. Think about something like, I mean, people are going to get angry about this, but think about something like Chainlink, right? I don't know that Chainlink, the governance behind it, I don't know if anyone really wants that to be $100 per link token, because I think it makes it harder to execute on where they're going in the future, because the barrier to entry is too high, right? And everyone says you can use partial, pieces of link tokens, but that incentivizes, in my opinion, off-chain Chainlink nodes to say, no, it's one link per data feed, right? It gets unruly quickly. And Chainlink, I think, is a great project. I love it. But people saying we're going to $100 now kind of scares me, because there's no real value in that, in my opinion.
Right. So, this is one of the things I like that Elliot brought up when you live streamed with him or did that interview, that Elliot was like, oh, Chainlink's going through its hype cycle right now. And we see these, like, as he defined them, certain coins just have a lot of buzz around them at any certain point. Willy Woo brought up Namecoin. So, it seems to me, and I don't know a lot about the tech, but is the link token, necessarily going to go up in value? What you said, it's the only way I can see it is if we get, like, tons of retail to come in and they're going to all invest, thinking that, Chainlink is the next big thing. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea of a decentralized Oracle solution, but that is a question in my mind.
Is the Chainlink token needed, Hashoshi?
I think that it is a component of the ecosystem that's going to be important going forward, because I think a lot of the theoretical attacks on decentralized oracles really revolve around the risk versus reward of attacking something, especially when you get into into these ideas of using Chainlink oracles as DeFi price feeds. Even if the motive for the hacker is just chaos, you want to make it as costly as possible for them to start that attack and execute that attack. So I think by using the link token as sort of collateral in a lot of these use cases, it's valuable. But I don't think the full solution to this problem is there with just simply staking and slashing, right? Like, if an Oracle provider does something maliciously, you slash them and they take, they lose their bid on a certain data job. That's great, but I don't think that's enough to solve this issue long term. And that's not a cut against Chainlink. That's just the reality of this problem. It's very difficult to solve. So yes, the token is important, but I also think people need to understand there's a theoretical limit to where the token would reasonably go in a short amount of time, just out of pure utility.
Right. It's my personal, I want to, pick your brain on this. Just generally speaking on altcoins, it's, been my opinion for a while now that say Chainlink actually is very useful and will expand and will be needed. You're not going to see the same gains you would for a fundamental value as you would just generally when retail comes back into the space. Maybe after Bitcoin's over $20,000, who knows? When we see that overall trend change in the altcoin market, like even if Chainlink does for anything has fundamental value, it's really not going to see those huge gains until after retail's back in looking for something that's after Bitcoin, because I already know about Bitcoin. So what else is interesting? So for me personally, and again, plenty of people are going to make more money than me by investing in cryptocurrency. I'm just trying to do my best.
Yeah.
But for me personally, I'm waiting probably until Bitcoin gets over $20,000 again, until we see that trend change before I scale into alts. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's a strategy that I think, honestly, no one can predict the best, I guess the best strategy, right? It's like, it's anyone's guess.
We'd all be rich if we could.
Yeah, exactly. It would be fantastic if we could predict it. But I mean, I agree with you. I think the inflow and outflow of retail dollars is important. And then also institutional matters as well in terms of what stamps of approval you get from these big venture capital and big institutional investors, because that often drives people in the retail space to say, let me look at this as something that's valuable. But I don't think personally that the way that institutions invest in projects is reflective of how token prices move. It's very different because they aren't necessarily securities, that you're not investing in a piece of the company. So it's tough. It's really tough to predict.
Right.
Is there and we're not going to spend the whole thing on Chainlink because we do have super chats, but is there generally speaking, a different Oracle solution, decentralized Oracle solution coin that you like? I know there's
Chainlink the top.
Or yeah, for you, is Chainlink right now the most exciting?
I mean, I've gotten to use the Chainlink tech when I did a video about Chainlink and broke down how it works recently. And I really do love it. I think it's a fantastic project. It's the closest thing to a complete framework level solution that you can get for oracles. And I think that their roadmap is smart in the way that they're going after interoperability chains and protocols to get their oracles in more people's hands without having to customize for one chain specifically. Super smart. But there's another project called Teller that's really interesting. TELLOR.
Bring that up, yeah.
But go on.
But they have another really interesting solution. It's more niche down, and it's definitely different than Chainlink. But you can see, I mean, it has attention, and it's focused on a really hot topic. There you go. You have the website up. It's very focused on DeFi and getting probably the most important type of data into your smart contracts in a way that's secure and trustworthy. Price feeds are huge. I think people don't realize how many attack vectors there are for smart contracts in DeFi just using price feeds.
Very nice.
I just think the more altcoin websites you look at, they all just they have the same buzzwords, and Teller might be a good one, but get the DeFi, decentralized,
Yeah, of course. And that's why it takes effort, and it sucks, but it takes effort to parse through all of the buzzwords and figure out what they're actually doing and whether or not you assign that value.
And that's why people subscribe to your channel, correct?
Yeah, at least one would hope.
We do have super chats. We can get to them at the very end.
We can get to them whenever, if they're relevant. We're going to prioritize things maybe we actually have an opinion on.
Sprinkle them in.
Okay, let's sprinkle them in. Feel free to say, hey, pass, or give a 30-second or 2-minute analysis. The first one is,
I think it'd be hard, by the way, if somebody just threw a random altcoin out of the thousands in my face and said, what's your opinion? So
yeah, I can if I don't know it, I can quickly look at the website and give you my quick and dirty thoughts.
Right. Well, first off, Nano thoughts.
Yeah, really interesting. I did a video about Nano, I think a year and change ago. Price wise, Nano is, there you go. You guys are way ahead of me. I think Nano is a really interesting solution in that they have tried to attack the scalability problem in a really interesting way. And Nano is also something that I think we might see adoption in terms of edge clients like IoT devices and stuff, because it's such a there's such low computational load needed for the way that transactions are processed. And I think in some cases they've talked about that on their blog or their website and how it can be used. Again, it's like a lot of these things like Nano, Ontology, Neo, Cardano, et cetera, all these like protocol plays, they're all just taking a slight divergence in terms of what use cases they're going after. In this case, Nano is very focused on creating a payments network, creating a way for you to facilitate payments super, super quickly in a super lightweight way. And so eco-friendly being on their website really proves that out. They want to make their protocol super efficient. So I think it'd be interesting to see that running on like really weak devices and seeing if you could set up a network that's really, really distributed.
For like micropayments.
Yeah, micropayments, being able to do like terminal style payments inside like stores and stuff using really cheap hardware. I think it would be really interesting to see.
Now, let me give you my thoughts on just generally, first of all, just generally coins that are competing for the market of money. I'm actually thinking right now that coins like Nano or Bcash or anything going for the market of money, DigiByte, could have a good chance of getting speculated on in this next cycle, because I think as like the people get like smarter and smarter with their crypto investments, some people are going to realize, well, blockchain isn't necessarily good for everything, but is definitely good for money. And if that's the case, then let's see what other decentralized monies there are, because like what if Bitcoin fails? Maybe something else. Now that being said, is it the best, like coins that are going after like faster, cheaper payments, like Cash, they're competing with Venmo. Is that going to actually have real value when the real value is decentralized, permissionless, open source, stuff like that? Just general thoughts on that concept?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. If I had to take a handful of projects out of that list, I think that DigiByte and Nano are both really interesting solutions to this problem as sort of like almost a tertiary micropayments layer that can be fed by Bitcoin as a store of value, or Bitcoin, like think of Bitcoin as your savings account where you'll move volume out instead of facilitating transactions directly. I think DigiByte and Nano are great options because they're both lightning fast, but also fundamentally pretty strong from a finality perspective and a blockchain perspective.
Just looking at the charts, I would say that DigiByte definitely looks like an oscillator. Nano, sure. it was a question, or there was some littler oscillations near the beginning. And then DigiByte definitely has a stronger Lindy effect.
Hey, and we have a specific super chat about DigiByte.
Okay.
And I know you talked about this a little bit, Forrest, in your last top altcoin video, but our audience is new. So the question is, better for DigiByte that Tate stepped down? Does this open up more exchanges like Binance to list them now?
So Tate was the creator, right?
Yeah. He was the creator. Really interesting. Jared Tate leaving, and that's the thing. I think he's still going to be involved in DigiByte because there's been clarification afterwards. He'll still be involved, but he's stepping back from, I think, the open source side into protocol development, focusing more on commercial stuff and just work with DigiByte externally. And that's great. I think this just proves, though, that DigiByte is a lot different than a project like Ethereum. And I'm not hating on Ethereum in this. It's just the truth.
Feel free to hate, dude. We can hate
Vitalik, on I mean, I love Ethereum. Part of my job is dependent on Ethereum because I build dApps on Ethereum a lot. But, Vitalik Buterin, if he said, I'm stepping back from Ethereum, the world would go into chaos regarding Ethereum, because he makes a ton of decisions and is very influential in the project. The fact that Jared Tate can say, I'm going to take a step back and be less involved, really just proves that protocol development really is separate from him in a lot of ways. And that's why DigiByte has had my admiration for a long time, because they have the guts to take the UTXO model that Bitcoin made popular and modify it and add things to it that they think made it more scalable and focused in on that as the use case, and trying to build in other features on top of a UTXO chain that stretch the fabric of what a UTXO blockchain can do. And Jared Tate has not been the person to just say, this is what's going to happen next. These are the people we're going to hire to build it. This is what we're going to do after that. It's really run as a community open source project, which I love to see.
And would you say this will Binance maybe now list it since they see, wow, you guys truly don't have a leader?
Well, they didn't list it originally because they were trying to get them to pay money, right? And then Tate said, well, a truly decentralized coin doesn't have the funds to pay, which is pretty good.
I think that depends on, if the community as a group, which they very well might, decides that they want to go through that process. And maybe if you still have to pay whatever, if you just bury the hatchet and say, hey, this needs to be on here, I think it could, because I know that the fundamental disagreements were oftentimes with, Jared Tate and some of the other leadership, but it's hard to say what direction they'll go. I also think that there's a lot of ways to get DigiByte already that people aren't aware of. My favorite way to get it is using Shapeshift, non-custodial. I connect up my Trezor onto the computer, and then I just do a quick Shapeshift swap and get DigiByte straight to my hardware wallet.
And there's no KYC if you're paying in crypto. Is that correct?
I actually think now, because they are regulated. It's just the truth. I think you do have to KYC if you're using exchange features now.
But all you have to do is if you have crypto, just send your crypto to the address and they'll send it directly to your wallet. And it's pretty easy, right?
Yeah, and it's great. I mean, the fact of the matter is that I will accept KYC because I get to use this non-custodially, right? I don't need to let them hold my crypto. I send the crypto out of my wallet and then get the DigiByte straight back into it. So there's never any custodianship of my crypto, which is great. I love it.
I do want to say, team, right now we are at 260 likes, 884 people watching. Beautiful. Let's get those likes up for Forrest, Hashoshi, to 400. Easy thing to do. I do see the super chats about Jarvis, about Matic, about Dent. We'll get to those. We will sprinkle those in. But
yeah, and this is Forrest's YouTube channel. Link is in the description. Feel free to subscribe to him if you're so inclined. If this video gets over 700 likes, I will subscribe to him on stream, but that's ultimately up to you.
Nice.
All right.
Maybe before we get to these super chats, ask Forrest's opinion on some of the high caps.
Yeah.
Sure.
Besides Ethereum, because we know.
Well, I mean, what do you think Bitcoin maximalists and Bitcoiners don't understand about Ethereum? What do you think they don't get? Any thoughts or no?
Well, I think both sides of the argument are in many ways blinded by their own protocol. I think that from Bitcoin perspective, people think that Ethereum is a direct competitor for the new digital money of the future, which some Ethereum folks will say, ETH is money. Okay, whatever. But the reality is Bitcoin and Ethereum are they're not even in the same universe. After you start talking, you say blockchain, they're totally different on top of that layer. And so I hate when people compare the two and say, well, Ethereum is better, Bitcoin is better. They're not even close to the same. Not in use case, not in protocol design, nothing except for the fact that they're both blockchains are similar. And so I think that it shouldn't even be a competitive conversation. That's just my opinion.
Right. I don't know if Ethereum will stand the test of time. I mean, generally, I can see the argument why versus Bitcoin, 99% of alts will trend towards zero. But I don't know if Ethereum will stand the test of time. But I definitely think it's one of the safest altcoins to invest in coming up in this next cycle, because there seems to be so much just building on it and around it and a hype around it. Mm-hmm. And it seems like it's gearing up to be something people speculate on.
Yeah. And price aside too, people say, well, Ethereum is the best because of DeFi. DeFi is replicable on most, scripting language or virtual machine enabled blockchain networks.
What is DeFi?
Decentralized finance. Basically, you've now created code that is the intermediary in financial transactions that doesn't really need to take a big, massive cut of a transaction, and you don't really have to trust them like a person. So basically, in an instance where you have, let's just take a simple escrow example. Normally, you'd have a bank do an escrow for you, hold money, conditionally give it to whoever the recipient is upon, some sort of thing happening in real life. In that regard, you both have to trust that same bank. You both are going to have to pay fees. there's probably going to be fungibility issues if you're trying to swap currencies in between. So you can use a DeFi oriented product to build an escrow that takes a cryptocurrency A into escrow and pay out on cryptocurrency B based on a set of conditions that might get fed in via Chainlink or Teller Oracle of some kind. Who knows? Pretty interesting stuff. There are a lot of things going on in DeFi.
Non-custodial finance. Non-custodial finance. That's what I would have said.
Yeah.
Sprinkling in some super chats.
But a $10 super chat asking about IOTA.
From Driving While Black. Funny name, IOTA.
I have strong opinions. Maybe you can speak more to the tech. I'll start. Is just like IOTA, in my opinion, in the past 8 months or whatever, really, really disheartened me to the whole cryptocurrency space. Made me a little bit more cynical in that they suffered that like hack or whatever, like 6 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And then their founders basically paused the network and took it off. And, it's revealed not only they had a problem, but also very centralized. Now, what disheartened me was that the price didn't move 1 iota. And it just seems to me that if this was really based on fundamentals, the price would have moved differently than the rest of the market.
Yeah, we're on the same page. The price is based on tribalism and basically a mass of people who believe in the vision of the project, but are separated from the reality of where we are now. And I'm not even saying that IOTA could never be successful ever, but a lot of things need to change from a tech perspective for them to do that. I think first and foremost, they touted all this next gen cryptography that ended up really not working at all. It was peer reviewed by a bunch of other people out in the world. They're like, this just doesn't work. That was proven. And then secondly, they took a technology that I think needs to get more attention, directed acyclic graphs and a tangle, as they call it.
The DAG?
DAGs. Yep. And they kind of made DAGs mainstream earlier on than most other projects did. So I think that's interesting, and they deserve credit for taking a swing at that. But the reality is that the project as built now does not work the way it was supposed to work. And there's nothing anyone can say about it to prove me wrong on that, in my opinion. It just doesn't work the way that they intended it to.
Boom. Forrest bringing us the real talk, the truth.
Let's take a little 2-minute break.
Cool.
As something I noticed, like as soon as we smashed up the likes 5 minutes ago, the views instantly went up to 900 people watching. So for those watching at home, I think it would be even more fun if we get more people in on the conversation. More people subscribing to Hashoshi.
If we get up to 700 likes within this stream, I will subscribe to Hashoshi live on stream.
Boom.
Help me get that really important 1 sub. Let's go.
Yeah.
Guys, we are getting super chats. I don't want to maybe do a little game, spend a minute talking about these coins, just rattle off positives and negatives.
If we have no opinion, let's just move on.
Yeah, we don't have to talk about them at all.
Yeah, there's no point in trying to come up with an opinion.
Dent and Matic. Two separate things.
Yeah, Dent, I don't know as much about. I haven't done as much depth of research on Dent. I can go and look at the site real quick and give a quick and dirty thought. Matic, though, interesting stuff, helping scale Ethereum network, maybe even scaling outside of the Ethereum network eventually. But being able to take the plasma invention that came into the mix way back in the day when they started talking about Ethereum 2.0's move to proof of stake. Essentially, Matic is setting up finality-based layer 2 technologies to help the Ethereum network scale off-chain. Pretty cool stuff. I'm curious, though. This is the only thing I'm curious about. How is Matic going to pivot with Ethereum 2.0 coming into the mix with sharded blockchains in and of itself, right? They have core scalability built into the protocol. So what are they going to do there? I'm very curious.
Do you think Ethereum 2.0 is right around the corner? Like, do you think that'll happen this year or next year? Or?
I think we're going to get basically the stub of Ethereum 2.0, the beacon chain and proof of stake, to start seeding the network, which I think they need like some tens of thousands of ether staked across 16,000 validators before you start earning rewards on the network. I think that's going to be summer this year. but it's not going to be able to, you're not going to be able to use the network for anything really. It's just going to be staking first to prove that out. Then in 2021, by the end of the year 2021, we should have a more functional Ethereum 2.0 network that can do stuff. But it's not going to be feature complete. It's going to take longer than that to be feature complete.
I like it.
I like it. And last super chat, and Forrest and Aaron, please pick 1 or 0 to talk about.
0.
Okay. Where was it? All right. Oh yeah, Jarvis Network. Somebody tipped us $10. Very low cap, he says.
Never heard.
Ghost by John McAfee, a new privacy coin.
Well, we all know John McAfee's picks have been stellar long-term holds.
And also Phantasma Soul.
Oh, dude, you just gave us a bunch. I don't know any of these.
Well, if you have one that sticks out.
I can talk to the privacy coin thing.
Okay, great. That's perfect.
Which one was that?
Ghost.
Yeah.
Is that what it's called? Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. Honestly, so look, I know that people talk about privacy coins as a great frontier to invest in. I know that there are privacy concerns going on in the government space right now. People are worried about it. I completely understand. But let me just tell you with 99% certainty, the first place that regulators are going to go to start cracking the whip and laying down the hammer is privacy coins. And to date, all of the privacy coins that are out there are not 100% private, airtight entries and exits, right?
Not even Monero?
No, because you're onboarding and you're offboarding, like the entry and exit can still be used to go after you, right? So let's just say this. It's the same way they've attacked Tor, right? Tor is secure when you're inside the bubble of Tor, but the entry and exit nodes are always the point of failure for people. So let's just say governments around the world decide, if we see you go into a privacy coin, you are guilty until proven innocent, which they can do. And they do in terms of taxes, right? If you get something wrong in your taxes, they can say, prove us wrong and tell us you didn't do something wrong. And it's not innocent until proven guilty. It's the other way. So privacy coins are a place that people need to just take special care in, in looking at it as an investment, because if governments start going after privacy coins, who knows what will happen to prices, because people that don't really care about privacy but are investing speculatively, they're going to jump out, likely. So that's just something to think about. I'm not predicting or making premonitions that this will happen. I'm saying it can. And there are a lot of things you can do for your privacy. Privacy coins are great, but there are a lot of easier things to take advantage of that aren't investing in privacy coins. Excuse me.
Like what? Like what's one?
That was well said, by the way.
One thing that you can do for your privacy is just really commit to using a VPN. It's cheap and it's easy. Just do it, honestly. And there are so many options out there that there's no excuse not to.
And hey, last super chat. This guy,
I wanted to get to, I know that he has some opinions on Cardano, and that's when everybody knows. So I did want to get to that next.
All right. Well, this one tipped $20. So this will be the last one. We can't get all of them, but check out Phantasma Soul, I guess is the coin. It's game 22 series racing, will be on Steam, Xbox, PlayStation, and is a real showcase of blockchain and gaming with NFT technology. And I also know that Forrest,
huge proponent of NFTs.
Yes, exactly. So NFTs in general, if you want to relate it to Phantasma or anything, general thoughts?
Got it. Okay, so this is kind of like, I'm just looking at the site right now. This is like a CDN, content distribution network for NFT-based content, it looks like, just off of my first quick look at it. Mm-hmm. It's available on KuCoin, so there's some access to it. Interesting. Okay, so my first thought on this, obviously not having done research into how it works and all that sort of thing, NFT projects have a really good shot at taking market share, even if they're the same as another project in terms of niche, right? I don't think that we're going to see just one NFT project or one NFT content distribution project starting to get some attention, because there are so many, today, there's so many game studios and options to look at in terms of content. This looks pretty cool. I'm going to do some more research on this, and I will maybe post a video standalone on my channel about it. But being able to facilitate a marketplace for digital goods across chains is very interesting. And there you go. You've got Engine going.
That's like the name brand, right? Engine.
Yeah. Engine for NFTs. And quite frankly, Engine has an advantage in my mind only because they built, in my opinion, the most impactful invention on the Ethereum network since the original ERC20 spec, and that is ERC 1155, fungible, non-fungible tokens in one contract. It's unbelievable, their solution to the scalability problem behind NFTs, and I think people need to pay more attention to it.
I like it.
I love it.
Awesome. But yeah, thanks for putting Phantasma on the brain.
And if you guys want that potential deep dive on Hashoshi's channel, link in the description, team. Check it out.
Thanks very much.
Before we get to Cardano, is there anything that you want to talk about for us?
Yeah, I think another thing that's interesting is this idea that I think has started to get even more traction lately, which I thought would be the opposite. And that is that there will be one protocol to rule them all in terms of the decentralized application space. And I don't get it.
What is that one protocol? They're talking about Ethereum or?
Whatever. Honestly, I think it's whatever a person is most invested in, both personally in the mission, but also financially in the token, that becomes their protocol, and they don't think anything else can survive except for their protocol. It's the best thing ever. And
there's network effect though, like with Bitcoin, network effect in anything that, the QWERTY keyboard that has some like first mover advantage, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, but I think in this case, protocol wise, because this is going to sit on top of a mutually agreed upon protocol that we already have, which is the internet, which will change over time. And it might actually take things from blockchain technology in terms of making the internet infrastructure safer, more efficient, more effective at what it's supposed to do and being decentralized. But I don't think we are at the point yet, and we won't be for a long time, to say this is the protocol that serves every use case the best, and that this is the only protocol that you should be using to do anything. We're actually right at the very beginning of exploration of new protocols that have the ability to do what Ethereum has done for the longest time, and that's provide a platform on which developers can build decentralized applications that do different stuff. And Solidity, the programming language for Ethereum, being really the only option for the longest time, I think has kept a lot of developers out of dApp development, because there are a lot of pitfalls and things that have made Solidity hard to work with over time. And so now with all these other protocols coming into the mix, you might see a brand new breed of dApp developers coming into the mix and building new stuff. So it's too early to call winners and losers, in my opinion.
And in terms of what you're saying with one protocol to rule them all, is like those chains that are more focused on interoperability, are those the ones that like excite you more?
And interoperability for the folks at home is being able to trade different, basically tokens on different protocols with each other.
Securely, without introducing the issues that blockchain is supposed to eliminate, which is double spend and unsigned transactions and other things like that. Yeah, interoperability is going to be a huge part of the future of these protocols, because I think they're going to have to start talking to each other. And you might have, I think in the future, we're going to see things like really niche down protocols, right? Maybe Cardano is going to be very focused on financial use cases, but Ethereum might end up being focused more on like true DeFi use cases that don't go externally, right? It's peer-to-peer finance, where Cardano might be API integrations with existing financial services that are facilitated on a blockchain. I'm just kind of spitballing here. It may not go this route.
It's just a hangout,
Yeah, I mean, we might see then the transactions that occur on one protocol for a certain niche down use case, then start transmitting and transferring between multiple different blockchain networks using these interoperability schemes and protocols. So I don't think we're going to have just one network that does everything, because it's really hard to build something that does everything well. That's just the truth.
True. All right, so let's go to the chat, see what the chat is doing, unless you have.
Well, just some other like stuff about Cardano. I mean, to me, the best thing for retail to buy into Cardano is Charles Hoskinson, because it takes the time to explain things so much. But like once they get Shelly launched and like people can start developing dApps on them, do you think they're going to be significantly different from something like a Tron, which, you know, it really only has like the gambling dApps? We don't really have too many killer dApps. You know, they're trying to do the DeFi on Ethereum. Do you see, like, do you think Cardano is going to, I think you do, like, be more of a success than Tron, or what are your thoughts?
I do, because I think that Tron did a break. There's like two big strategies, like main buckets for building a protocol and building any software. And that's the move fast and break things and then fix them afterwards sort of thing, where you get your stuff out quickly. And you usually use open source stuff that's out there already. People hate on Tron for using the Ethereum source code. I get plagiarizing the white paper. That's a bonehead move. But taking the protocol, it's fair game. It's open source. They can do whatever they want with it and make small changes or big, you know, small or big changes and rebrand. That's totally within their rights to do. But I think Cardano's taken the complete opposite approach, which is academia style, formally verified research, quantitative analysis of proof of stake, because this is what I want to draw attention to. Proof of stake is not as simple as the most wealth in the network are the most incentivized to do the right thing, so let's give them the rights to mine and verify blocks. If you did it that way, the whole thing would break. It's completely not secure that way, because you'd immediately start to have cartels form, because there's no randomization. It's just the biggest wealth holders win. That's it. And so you need to start introducing methods of verifiable randomness to help spread things out a little more. You have to balance the rewards that you get for proof of stake, so you don't reinforce the biggest wealthy parties to the point where they become unbeatable in the network. So a lot of this is very fine-tuned math that's required to balance these protocols out and model them. And that's why it's taken so long. That's why Ethereum 2.0 didn't come out 3 years ago when they started talking about it. It's taken this long because they had to go back to the drawing board, scrap it all, and restart and do it the slow way, because the fast way doesn't work when you need to get it right in the first try. You have one shot at a new protocol, and if it fails and it blows up, then you're done.
True. I appreciate you taking the time with us. We'll probably only go about like 10-ish more minutes, 10, 15
Sure.
more minutes. So, you know, get your, best questions in on the chat. What do you think is a good video? If somebody were discovering your channel for the first time, in your recent videos, which one do you think is pretty good?
I'm really proud of the Chainlink video that I just made. It should be in there like 2 weeks ago, right in the middle of your screen now, I think. Yeah, that one I went through and I modeled out and did like diagrams and explained how Chainlink works under the hood, top to bottom, without anything about price and hype and should you buy. It's all about how it works so you can understand and make a decision for yourself. I think that video is one I worked hard on.
Nice.
We did get a super chat about Litecoin.
Cool.
Oh, yeah, Litecoin's a big one. And that's like, so going after the market of money, going after like the cheaper, faster payments. I think, Litecoin is an oscillator. I think Litecoin is going to be speculated on heavy. It's usually pumps, before Bitcoin. And I mean, I think, after Bitcoin, after I'm ready to scale into alts again, I'm definitely going to have some Litecoin. But what do you think as a programmer, coder?
Yeah, I think Litecoin took, again, the fundamentals of Bitcoin and made some small tweaks to make it better in their minds, right? Which is cool. I think they didn't go as far in terms of changes as DigiByte did. And so they're still very close to the original spec for what Bitcoin was designed to be. But definitely a little bit more scalable on chain, which is fine. I think what Litecoin needs to do now, though, is they need to differentiate from being lumped in. People talk, they're like, Bitcoin is gold, Litecoin is silver, right? That's not the place you want to be. You don't want to be the just talked about because you're like the second cool UTXO blockchain on the block. You need to do something else that makes you different. And so I think they're trying to implement on-chain privacy using Mimblewimble, which is a scheme for on-chain privacy. It's honestly kind of like aggregated transactions are like mixing on-chain within reason. It's not exactly the same, but it's similar. But I think that's probably smart. It's probably smart to start separating yourself from the pack and doing different stuff within a UTXO chain. So hopefully they keep doing that.
Sweet. And one thing I will say, not from a programmer point of view, but just purely investment, and this is just one aspect, what I like about the Litecoins and the DigiBytes, they have, yes, they have more sort of sell pressure to the downside because people did buy at the top, but also at the same time, they have more liquidity. And with Bitcoin in traditional, compared to traditional assets, you know, people say Bitcoin barely has liquidity, but these altcoins, if they, like the Unibrights or like the new ones, if they pump up super high, if we get a bull run at the end of this year, just because something's priced like that, if you can't exit, then how much is that really worth, as opposed to these Litecoins and DigiBytes and XRPs?
It has a little bit of a Lindy effect in developing those store of value possible like you're talking about.
That's just pure sort of one aspect. Hey, we do have one super chat, more of a, it's just a comment. So there's not even a question here. He just says, cool. Ocean, Dag, Cody.
So those are probably all alts.
Yeah. Well, do you know what Cody is?
No. Which one are you looking up?
I'm looking up Ocean Protocol. I've heard of this, and I swear I've looked at it before, but not in depth.
I mean, he gave us 3, so
interesting.
Nothing.
So this is.
I would say that I cannot speak knowledgeably on.
Build powerful Web3 apps. Yeah, that's the key with all these altcoins, guys. Like Hashoshi does. You got to go get behind the buzzwords on the website and then see what's actually involved.
Yeah, and I would urge you to not just look at, a project might be successful and be used in a lot of ways and across a lot of protocols, especially if they're just focused generally on Web3, right? And the token price might not move, right? Because maybe the token price does not accurately reflect the utility of the protocol. Maybe in some cases, the token might not even be necessary to do what it is being done in the protocol. So I'm not saying that in specifics to Ocean Protocol. I've not done any research.
In a lot of the cases on coins, on CoinMarketCap, people think they're all equal, but some of them are not equal and they're useless.
Yeah, exactly. And again, it's really tough to start to, parse out like what makes a coin necessary in a protocol, because it's not like a simple set of criteria that you just check boxes and say yes or no. A lot of times it's more nuanced than that, because it's about not just how the protocol is designed, but how predictably or unpredictably the people that you're intending to use it actually use it. And that's why this is so challenging as a space, because it's non-centrally controlled software that's used at a protocol level where people never, ever, ever, ever use things the way you think they will.
We have a specific question for you, Forrest. It says, hey, Hashoshi. And if you do this, if you don't do this, I don't know. But if we have a specific ETH DApp developing question, how would we reach out to you? Twitter? Do you answer specific DApp questions? I
do. I try my best to answer as much as I can. If you have a specific DApp question, you can reach me on Twitter at Hashoshi4, which is just my channel name with the number 4 at the end. Yeah, it's in the tweet for this live stream. Great point. I will open up my DMs, or you can just tweet me there. And then if we need to go to email, I'll give you my email and you can reach out to me direct.
Holy shit, what a guy. I would never just open up my DMs and emails. You're going to get tons of just people.
No worries, man. I like to answer questions.
Nice. Hey, what are your thoughts on the Lightning Network? Do you think, Bitcoin haters will say, or like Bcashers or something will say, Lightning Network is shit? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, like anything else, it's like, for people, most of the time it's binary. It's either shitty or it's good, like there's no in between. I think the thing it's mythological. People don't realize that the Lightning Network is not one thing, right? There are multiple, like a multitude of implementations of layer 2 scaling that's just unilaterally called the Lightning Network. So some implementations are not private, not secure, and overall shitty. Other ones are a lot better, but still not ready for prime time. So that's the motif. It's good in a lot of ways because we have the rigid, no hard fork thing going on in Bitcoin, no on-chain scaling. Okay, fine. To each their own. Layer 2 is necessary in that case.
Yeah, I think that's good because we'll have the most secure base layer possible, and gives all these other things a little bit more freedom to experiment.
Yes, I will say though, I'm a Bitcoin fundamentalist as well. I have an immense amount of respect for what has been built there, right? And I also don't look at it like mutually exclusive. I can't like any altcoin projects and think Bitcoin is the best well-implemented blockchain there is to date. Totally fair. But I think that the community needs to stand behind and start demanding like common sense soft forks, things that don't require a hard fork, but will help on-chain scalability to the greatest degree. Schnorr signatures and Taproot are a no-brainer. Like there should be no hemming and hawing about this update. So
those are coming up. Isn't that part of the plan to do that soon? Or
yeah, it's proposed and it's still being sort of argued, I think. But there's no questions it should for sure be implemented because it's backwards compatible. You can choose if you want to use it or not, and that's the best possible outcome.
I think the majority of people overwhelmingly think we should have those. Isn't it fight how we like specifications, but everybody's saying yes, we should have these.
Yes, but my fear is that argument of how it should be what the spec should look like, how it should be implemented, who should implement it. I think that's the dangerous game that you play, where you just, for lack of a better term, screw around so long that it either becomes overcomplicated or it just doesn't get done. So I hope, like SegWit, eventually we just say pens down, let's do this and let's make it work. And I think it'll benefit the rest of the world. But I will say too, really quickly on the Bitcoin front,
sure,
the Liquid protocol, right, which is sort of like really an alternative to Lightning, is being pushed by Blockstream, who were originally the big proponents for Lightning. So that's something to watch. Maybe Lightning is not what ends up happening. So just bear that in mind.
True, many options.
My opinion is that the fact that they're taking a long time to really decide, and you're like, dude, this is a no-brainer. Just generally speaking, my opinion is, and I guess that's what you want in like a base layer type money, where they're slow to make changes. So you can trust that your money will still be there 10 years down the line, and they're going to be like, you don't want money that changes all the time. And there's one more thing I wanted to say. Can't remember.
Well, guys, let's say final 5 minutes. We'll go straight to the chat. Forrest, we can talk about anything. We do have some.
I do remember what I want to say. That
go for it.
If Lightning Network or Liquid isn't, something that happens in the next few years, that we have to just stick with this base layer, and you're not going to have micropayments with Bitcoin unless you want to pay high fees or something. I don't think that would stop Bitcoin's price from rising. Just my opinion, in this current cycle, especially now that Bitcoin's narrative is more hard money, digital gold. There's a lot of points of tension in the last cycle, in my opinion, where people heard Bitcoin is money, but then they try to use it quickly like Venmo, and they're like, what the hell, this is not as good. Now that Bitcoin's being seen by a lot of like mainstream type people, a store of value, digital gold, I don't think we need to have a scaling solution necessarily this cycle for Bitcoin to go up. Just my opinion.
I would agree with you. I don't think you need a scaling solution that brings it to the levels that people are saying. Like, the Bitcoin blockchain does not have to be the next Visa in terms of throughput to still be successful as a store of value and as a means of payment. Because if you're moving large quantity as like a savings account, right, your fee structure is not as bad, right? Obviously for micropayments, maybe it won't be viable long-term. That's not that big of an issue. That's where other protocols come in. That's where maximalism falls apart. If you want to keep the Bitcoin blockchain true to its original, idea and its original vision and original protocol, then you need to be accepting of other protocols that are going to come in and make it viable for mass adoption, because you can't have it both ways.
True. We have super chats.
Okay, let's just get done with the super chats and we'll call it a day.
Okay.
Let's do it.
I love it. Before that, what do you do besides develop, Forrest?
Yeah, what kind of songs you listening to? What kind of movies you seeing? TV shows? What are you into?
Nice. I would say my favorite show of all time, to date, is Money Heist. La Casa de Papel on Netflix. It's unreal. It's in Spanish, but it's fantastic. There's actually an English dub, but I think it ruins the show. So just watch it in Spanish and subs. But it's a great show. Unreal. You should watch it.
It's about a money heist.
Yeah, it's about a bank heist originally, but there's so many undertones thematically that I think are really interesting and cool. Cool stuff. I won't say anything else. Just check it out and then text me or message me or whatever and let me know what you think, or hit me up on Twitter.
Better than Tiger King
or The Last Dance?
Hey, you know what? Tiger King is in a class of its own, man.
That's true. Yeah, they're saying they're going to make a movie on Tiger King, but I don't see how that's going to work unless they make it totally dark and totally different. It's not be able to get more exciting than the actual edited documentary.
Yeah, I mean, the real characters are like as out of the box and crazy as you'll ever get, you know.
Yeah, and especially the way it was just edited, where it's just like a, you've got a shock of just how much like outrageousness we're seeing.
Yeah, and then it's real. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy, honestly. Yeah, and music-wise, I listen to literally everything. Honestly, I grew up hugely into punk music, but I've branched out to all sorts of stuff: jazz, blues, classical, mainstream hip hop stuff, whatever it may be.
So you were a big Fall Out Boy guy.
I did like Fall Out Boy, yeah, but also some of the older. What'd you say?
Oh, it's punk.
Punk, pop.
Yeah,
Pop punk. Yeah, I mean that's where it would be classified.
All right, hey, final 5 minutes. I encourage all of us to keep these answers generally a little briefer since we have like 5 or 6.
What?
But what do you think about BAT, their reward system?
I'm a big proponent of the Brave browser. I think there are arguments in both directions whether or not they needed to make the basic attention token. In my opinion, if it were possible back then to use Bitcoin, they probably would have, and I think they tried to, but I guess that's an open argument. What do you guys think?
I personally think like BAT, I could see getting a lot of hype and adoption based on the Brave browser because that's so easy and good to use. That being said, no, I don't think anybody necessarily trusts or wants to hold BAT long term because it's a less hard type of money. Like in my opinion, I would switch that out to Bitcoin.
I do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. Is XRP price not moving because of its inward look towards banks and monetary policy?
What does that mean?
Is XRP price not moving because of its inward look towards banks?
So basically, it's like you're trying to sell a solution that's focused on existing banking infrastructure to people who don't like the existing banking infrastructure, which is an interesting point. I think the price is not moving because you have a complete incoherence in terms of the talk that there is about price. It's either XRP is going to like usurp every other crypto on earth, or it's going to zero.
Math, yeah.
Yeah, it's like there's no in between. And I think the reality is that all of the stuff that gets said about XRP online is not rooted in reality of like how XRP is used, how it's distributed, all of these things. So it's really hard to tell what it should be worth. But I don't think just because it's a banking oriented thing is why it's not moving. I think there's a lot more to it than that.
I'm bullish on XRP on its marketing when retail gets back in, but I'm not bullish on it gaining adoption from the banks. Just my opinion. I'll be happy to come in late,
Fair enough.
Hey, Tezos, thoughts?
Staking.
Tezos, they made staking a use case in and of itself, which I never thought we would see, right? Like most people know about Tezos because you can stake it. They got Coinbase to allow staking in app, like that's big stuff. So I call it a success from that perspective alone. But they're going to have to do some work to make their scripting languages. They have 2 now, I think. They're 2 scripting languages, Michelson and Ligo, Ligo. They're going to need to like push those really hard and get them developed quick so that they can start competing in the dApp space.
I like it. Great perspective. These super chats kind of keep getting added on. So if you're game for another couple minutes,
just 2 minutes.
I'm game. As long as you guys want to go, I'm game.
Oh, I love
2
this.
hours. Okay.
Hey, from Sylvan Newbie, he says, what do you think about Polkadot and their network Kusama KSM token?
And explain what Polkadot is, because I'm not sure I know.
Yeah, Polkadot is another one of the mixed in interoperability protocols, kind of like in the same vein as Cosmos and Icon. Kusama is sort of like the first implementation that sort of, kind of forked off of what Polkadot was doing. And they've actually launched before Polkadot. So I think as long as Polkadot is not launched and is not ready for mainstream, Kusama is going to get all the attention because it's basically let's just release this. This is the move fast and break things version of Polkadot, whereas Polkadot itself is kind of slowing down, trying to get it, totally refined and ready. But it's all interoperability focused.
Cool. Interesting. How about Nebula? NEBL.
People are just throwing out random coins. If you don't have an opinion, don't feel like you need to.
Which one? Neblio.
Oh, Neblio.
Yeah.
Interesting. I'm not super familiar with this one.
I haven't been familiar since
This was like a 2017 pump, right?
Yeah, I have not kept up on the project.
This looks like a degen to me, not an oscillator.
It looks very flat.
Yeah.
Oh, but it's blockchain simplified.
So here, this is interesting though. It brings up a great topic, which is the enterprise blockchain stuff.
Right. Like the nulls. Do you remember nulls was going to be big?
Yeah, yeah. I think there's still people that are into it. I think all of these enterprise blockchain protocols tried to do the same thing all at the same time, and they were too early. They were too early because the protocols were not ready to be used in terms of tooling to build stuff with them once you've implemented, and then the enterprise understanding and I guess just the mindset of enterprises wasn't there yet in 2017, because it was impossible to extricate the hype and price stuff and the real use case value to an enterprise for blockchain. And we're starting to get there now.
Yeah, and I think I don't know, I'm most familiar with all these enterprise blockchain solutions from like late 2017 or early 2018. I remember there's a lot of talk about them, but at that time, everybody there was no longer this big interest in cryptocurrency. People were becoming disheartened. So it's not only they're not ready for prime time, but it's also just nobody was really interested. In my opinion.
I'm with you. Yeah.
Would you say, Forrest, that Unibright or enterprise solution is the Unibright's the most exciting now? The ones
Unibright's the new hotness, right?
Yeah, Unibright's the hotness, and my opinion is that Unibright is exciting. I'm a huge advocate for Unibright now that I've gotten to use their product, at least what's out there now, and I've gotten to speak with some of the leadership there. Really cool stuff, and they've got their head on right. But the problem is that I think people again are approaching Unibright, the UBT token, as an investment in their company, and it isn't one. The token is designed to be the fuel that allows businesses to use their services without having to worry about currency exchange and SLAs and other things that happen between Unibright, the company, and the businesses they work with, so they can sort of decouple themselves from the protocol. That's all it's for. And so if you're not going to use your UBT to do something tangible, maybe don't dump your life savings into it, right? I say buy a little bit to test the product out and see if you like it. And then beyond that, just settle down,
I like that. That's good. And I would also go back to my personal investing strategy. Not that people should copy me, but it's even if Unibright does have fundamental value, you're not really going to see all those massive speculative gains until retail gets back in anyway, in my opinion. So why not just be conservative? That's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Hey, guys, we still have 4 super chat questions. So,
keep them
30 seconds each.
Yeah, 30 seconds each. From Todd Mullis, biggest risk to Bitcoin in the medium term.
I'm going to say 2. Medium to long. So medium term is regulation, and not necessarily direct regulation against Bitcoin, but regulation that scares the next generation of investors and holders and users of Bitcoin away from even trying, or making it too difficult to even enter the space. So people say, anti-regulation across the board. Reality check, it's going to happen. You can't control it. So you're better off trying to work with regulators as much as we can to get common sense, regulatory understanding of what it is, so that they don't destroy everything with stupid regulations. And so that's their medium term. Long-term risk is quantum. People don't take it seriously, but it is a risk. And it's not a risk in terms of blowing up the future of Bitcoin, because you can always pivot and start from, block X and be, operable with quantum, resistant cryptography going forward. It's backwards compatibility that's the issue. Brute force crushing, signatures and transaction signatures, exposing privacy for people, reverse engineering public keys to private keys if we don't move to quantum resistant crypto. So that's important, not just for Bitcoin, but for all.
I would say, I don't know if quantum is necessarily a midterm concern, maybe a long-term concern, but I don't really know. I would say, if I'd answer that question, midterm, something bad for Bitcoin. If we went into a global bad recession or depression, that would be bad in the midterm.
Yeah, no, a few people are going to choose to speculate if they don't.
I don't even think the people who are buying Bitcoin right now, I would like to believe are like the more institutional hedge funds, family offices types who are like have some money to throw around. Okay, next.
Hey, we got a super chat from Wilkie. Could DigiByte be a viable substitute for the Lightning Network for payments because of speed and low fees and to keep Bitcoin more as a store of value?
Interesting point.
He's
Theoretically,
saying, will DigiByte be used as a means of payment? Bitcoin's got the store of value thing covered, so why not spend DigiByte?
I'm behind that idea. I think that DigiByte, anyone who's used it day to day, I think realizes it's fast and it has solid, like strong finality and security principles. And I think it's pretty equitable to be mined, and they're working on making it more equitable so average people can mine. Maybe that's a good option. So something to explore.
I would say that, I don't know. I don't think most people want to spend their cryptocurrency. I mean, they do it, but I don't know if most people would do it on a regular basis. You know, people treat it as an investment. So, I mean, while it's possible, I think, you know, if you see that chart, the Lindy effect by Murat Mahmudov, it's like, from what I've read, these things tend to start as a store of value first. So,
Yeah, that I agree with too. Yep.
Yeah, I concur. Hey, Todd Mullis asks, do you feel the identity of Satoshi is relevant? It feels like the community is getting jittery concerning a very underwhelming reveal soon.
I think that's the biggest test for who is fundamentally interested in Bitcoin for what it's actually about versus what it's sort of become for some people. The identity of Satoshi is symbolic in a sense that there is no figurehead that can control unilaterally the Bitcoin network. And people are worried only because they're financially invested in Bitcoin. And so if the Satoshi wallets went and dumped all their Bitcoin, that would have a negative price inflection. But it doesn't change anything about the protocol and about the fundamentals of what the protocol means, because that one group or individual cannot do anything to change the trajectory of the Bitcoin network from a protocol perspective. But people are worried because of price. So no, Satoshi's identity does not matter at all. Even if it were Craig Wright, which I believe it isn't, right? My opinion, it doesn't matter. Like who really cares, honestly. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I tend to agree that it would have a psychological effect and cause people to maybe dump. But I think in the long term, it's already pretty much the network effect. It's already built out so much, it wouldn't really matter.
Yeah, true. And team, we have 1,000 people watching. Holy shit! 570 likes for Hashoshi, Forrest.
We're only going to answer these 2 questions left, but if we do get the likes to 700, I will be subscribing to his YouTube channel live.
Every sub counts.
Every sub counts, and links to his stuff are in the description if you want to follow him for his perspective.
So we are answering your questions. Probably last 3. And again, we can make these maybe quicker answers. Tron price thoughts, the partnership with Samsung.
What does
might
the
get
partnership entail?
Sound like their developer platform is what I remember.
What do you think about Tron generally? I mean, do you think it's going to stand the test of time? Do you think that matters, that partnership?
I think that Tron is trying to pivot all their work to being a content distribution network chain. I think their whole entire structure is set up to do that, right? Their acquisitions of BitTorrent, which is a big time protocol for file distribution and file sharing. I think DLive, I think a lot of the things that they're doing are pointing in that direction. They're going to try and make the next like YouTube competitor that has the core decentralized ideas and self-hosted file sharing that's distributed out.
Like a Steam? Is it like that?
Maybe. Yeah, like a Steam, but I don't think Steam and that whole thing that went with that acquisition is their final idea. I think they're taking all this stuff to buy the user base and to buy the basic stuff they need to implement what they're envisioning. My problem is I don't think Tron, with its current leadership, will ever escape the brand that they've made for themselves with everyone else except for the Tron fans, because the marketing has been so scammy, in my opinion, that it detracts from all the technical things that they're doing that I think actually make sense. Like if you separated out all of the Tron stuff, like the Tron marketing stuff, I would actually be sitting here optimistic about the strategy that they're taking to try and go after this underserved niche in the space and non-solution space, but I'm not sure. It's hard to say based on that.
Altcoin Daily Army, we are up to 645 likes. Thank you. Appreciate you.
Never get to 700 though. So
I know, man. You guys got to help me out. We need the 700.
Hey, Ren, their inter-blockchain liquidity for all decentralized applications. Thoughts?
Let's pull that up. Ren. We talked about them a little bit before, but go ahead.
Yeah, I just heard about them. I forget from whom, maybe on Twitter.
At the top, right? You bought at the top? Just kidding.
Well, I haven't bought, so disclosure, I haven't bought. But no, again, I think liquidity is another service that's going to be very interesting. You started to see like liquidity providers that getting some attention, like Kyber was like up 10%, down 10%. And like, there's so much craze around liquidity and being able to transfer between different cryptocurrencies within DeFi. So I'm going to do more digging, but really interesting stuff.
Yeah, and these guys seem big on interoperability.
Hey, Cy Nash says, Hashoshi, one of the few real gentlemen on crypto YouTube.
I appreciate that. I try.
Yeah, he's a good guy. Hey, final few questions. What's your favorite under the radar project? Not investment advice, of course.
Yeah, so this guy knows about Bitcoin. This guy knows about Ethereum. He wants to hear about the real moonshot, Forrest.
Man, that's interesting. All right, I have a couple of them written down. Let me just pick one. I'm going to pick one from this list that I have because I'm working on some like super low cap projects.
Okay.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let me.
And this is just a fun question. Obviously, it is not investment advice.
Yeah, I think. All right, let's go with this one. Honestly, self-key. I think self-key is so interesting. ICO aside, I'm a student of the idea of digital identity. And I think that there is some interesting stuff being done. And you look at the price and you say, okay, well, doesn't look good. But the reality is, I think that privacy preserving digital identity is something that needs to happen. And I think their solution is really interesting. So I'm hopeful that they'll continue to rock and roll.
Website's giving me, oh, there it is. Yeah.
Guys, we did it. The big goal.
Did we get it?
701 exactly. Aaron,
let's do it.
We would have done it afterwards anyway.
I'm not.
Yeah, at the end we get 699 likes. Like I thought we were friends.
Hey, and last question. Hey, a lot of these people, Todd Mullis has been asking a lot of these questions. So Todd, real supporter of knowledge. Can proof of work even survive long term?
I mean, I would jump in real quick. Just my opinion is that proof of work is for Bitcoin specifically is the only one that, I think will be around 10 years from now. Proof of stake, in my opinion, is the big question, or what specific protocol will be working with proof of stake. But go ahead.
Yeah, proof of work is paramount to the valuation of Bitcoin because it introduces the major security parameters to the network to prevent Sybil attacks like 51% attacks and other malicious party attacks. So I think it is critical. Do we need to be anchored to a proof of work that is, I call it like a non-utilized waste? No, I don't think so. I think there are ways that we can start to direct that computing power towards other deterministic, so predictable input and output type of activities that introduce the same amount of cost for miners to keep the security there, but also have utility for things like training machine learning models, doing other types of calculations that serve dual function. They're useful, but also wasteful at the same time, which is part of the security of Bitcoin. So maybe we go there.
I love it. Guys, I think we had a great stream. Final thoughts?
Yeah. You go. What are your final thoughts?
I just want to thank the audience. Usually on this channel, we do, more produced 10-minute news content. We're trying to do more hangouts. So I'm glad Forrest from Hashoshi joined us today.
This Thursday, we're going to be live streaming with Dan Health. So everybody can look forward to that.
There you go. Got a full week of nice guests, eh?
That's right.
Nice.
Super too. And final thoughts from you, Forrest?
No, I just want to thank first of all, thank you guys, Aaron and Austin, for having me on the channel. I'm glad we could do this at the last second today. Just a quick Telegram message and we got it lined up.
I messaged you like 45 minutes before. We'd never spoken before. And I said, hey man, do you want to come on? And you're like, yeah, let's do it. So thank you.
So cool. I love it. Love it. And thanks to everyone who watched, and thanks to everyone who, stuck around and asked questions. I really appreciate it.
All right, guys, I'm ending the live stream right now. Have a great night, and I will see you